of one of their sets. And that they really, really impressed me.
Yeah, they have a sound I think you would dig, because you and I are very similar in regards to a lot of our music tastes, and I'm a fan as well. So
yeah, and the live performance, they're just like so spot on. It's like, wow, these are just real professionals. So I will say, Haggard was another band. I heard they haven't been active for a while, like with a new album in 7 or 8 years, but they came with like 13 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, it's mostly growly vocals, which is kind of odd, but the rest of it is like really classically based. You know, they have like the standard, you know, bass, guitar, drums, a couple of guitars, and then they have keyboards. But, you know, the keyboard would go into harpsichord mode sometimes. Sometimes they go to acoustic guitar mode. And then they had a female, like, operatic singer. The bassist did kind of the male operatic vocals. And then the main guitarist did the growling vocals as well. But then they had, like, a cello, 3 violinists, a flutist, an oboist. Yeah.
My goodness, really?
Yeah. And that was really cool. That was something different. And I was really glad I got to catch them. And apparently the guy who kind of founded the band, the main singer, guitarist guy, he said he was really happy with his current lineup, because I guess they've had some rotation lately, and he seemed really happy with who's there now. So it sounds like maybe that implied they might be working on some new stuff. I don't know.
Very cool.
But I will say the band that made an impression on me, I don't know if it was the most positive, but it was really fun. I guess it was fun to watch. Was Trollfest?
Yes!
You guys know Trollfest?
I was hoping that's what you were going to say.
The only thing, I can't stand the incessant growling vocals.
Yeah.
It was like too much. But everything else was hilarious. They were so fun to watch. They had like eight members, I think, in their band, 8 or 9. And they were just like all over the place. They were jumping and running around the stage, and they had like the accordion and the saxophone and just the costumes, you know, the safari costumes. It was a treat to watch. It was definitely something different. So I'm glad I caught.
I was hoping of all the bands, that was one of the ones that I would have wanted to see, almost for the same reason you did. Like, I'd want to see this just to see it. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan musically, but I had a feeling it would be a kind of a spectacle.
It was.
And that's cool. That's awesome.
So that was a really cool, different experience, kind of exposing myself to things that I might not otherwise see. So, yeah, those are some that were really memorable. I mean, Orden Ogun was, of course, great as usual. I saw Serenity. That was great to see them. Who else? Ghost Ship. Oh, Eden Bridge I caught a little bit of, too. It was nice to hear what they were sounding like. So they're a band I might check out further, I think. So, yeah, it was pretty great.
Very cool. We don't call her the Where's Waldo of metal for nothing, because she's there in every picture, in every location across the world. You need like 4 GPSs just to keep up with her. She is the lovely Lacy Mucklow. Lacy, we have about 30 seconds left. How can the fans keep up with you, your reviews, your magazine? Tell us all about it. How can they follow you?
Well, you can go to LadyObscure.com. That's where we have all of our interviews and reviews and all the great things on Lady Obscure. We're also on Facebook, Lady Obscure Music Magazine. You can find us there, and that's where all the reviews are posted, as they're written, as they're published. So if you want to keep up with the latest reviews from whomever is writing, then go there and like the page. And then at Lady Obscure on Twitter is also where you can keep up. So...
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lacy, for being on the show. And I can also, sounds like it was a great time. And if you're listening to the show and that's something that you yourself would want to check out, it seems like it's a no-brainer as far as wanting to go. I think that hopefully Biv and I, one of these times, will get a chance to go out there and we'll get to meet up with you and we'll rock out to Trollfest and, have a good time. So thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Lacy.
You're welcome.
It's time for new metal album reviews.
Welcome to this fire. We will not destroy.
was Totalitarian Terror. Try saying that 5 times fast. From Kreator, off their new album, Gods of Violence. And I got into Kreator initially when Coma of Souls came out, kind of mid-90s. Because to me, it was right when I was listening to a lot of early Sepultura, also from the kind of mid-90s, early 90s, late 80s period. You know, the Morbid Vision, Schizophrenia, Beneath the Remains Sepultura. To me, they were the German version of that band. And Coma of Souls is a great example of that. And Kreator had some weird periods in the late 90s, like Endorama, but ever since 2005, they've just been killing it with just album after album of just straight up killer thrash stuff. And I think, however, since 2005, they've actually become a much better band because instead of just thrash, when they introduced Sam Lee Cernio to the band, he brought a very melodic, almost very Gothenburg, mellow death-like vibe and sounds to a lot of guitar. So it's not just balls-in-your-face thrash, even though there's plenty of that from Kreator. You have a lot more melody nowadays. And so here we are, 2017, Gods of Violence. Kreator doesn't come out with an album every year. They take quite a bit of time in between releases. And so here we are. And we just reviewed Testament a couple episodes ago, which was just an amazing album. Perfect score from me. Great thrash album. And I'm telling you right now, Kreator has their work cut out for them in regards to going up against a great thrash album like what Testament just came out with. So I have lots of thoughts on this one. But Biv, what did you think of Gods of Violence?
Well, here's another band that's been around. You know, we've talked a lot about bands that have been around for a long time over the last year that are now, you know, making their presence known in the current day and age. And here is another classic case of where you have a band from the past, a band who's been around really in some form or another since 1982, known as Kreator since 1985, 14 albums in 31 years, a band that's, to your point, has taken a little bit of time in recent years, but when you consider 14 studio albums and 3 live albums in 31 years, that's pretty active.
Yeah.
And so it's a band that, well, trying to describe, Millie Petros's vocals he's not a growler and he doesn't sing clean. He's somewhere between the two.
Exactly. And
he's more of a snarler.
Yes. Well said.
And as someone who can't get into growling, but loves clean vocals, I was okay with this. I'm okay with snarling, vocals. And because I can still understand them, I can still, hear the words, that type of thing. So I've kind of kept a close eye on Kreator over the years. Now, Coma of Souls, as you mentioned, great album. Over the last few years, it's been hit or miss. More miss than hit, really, with Kreator. This particular album I felt much different about. More melodic, better written, better performed. I felt like they varied their pace more, which is a big issue for me, especially from a thrash band. So I'm okay watching a band mature and grow as long as the music is better. In other words, I don't want them to go all Opeth on us, but I do want to see them change enough to where they're not making the same album over and over again. And that's a challenge when you've been around for, 30 plus years. So I felt like, for me, this was an album that they did a great job on. It kept it original and clean, and every single track was good. There's not a track on there I'm like, oh, dude, I totally skipped that. I don't have that. And that's saying a lot. So, what about you? Were there any tracks on there that you just were like, nah, I could do without?
Not really, no. First of all, World War Now starts off, you have the obligatory intro track, which, whatever. But the first song on the album is World War Now. And you talk about a track that just punches you right in the face. Like, great riff, chorus is super heavy. And the next track, Satan is Real, has arguably one of the best riffs I've ever heard.
Agreed.
Ever heard. That riff is awesome. in the beginning of that song. That is, I'm telling you, and it's a combination of just absolute heavy thrash with this tinge of melody. Listen, folks, I'm telling you right now, if you don't buy the Kreator album, shame on you, whatever. Do yourself a favor, even if it's on Spotify, go on frickin' YouTube, I don't care. Listen to the first minute and a half of Satan is Real. Holy shit, it's one of the best riffs I've heard in years. I'm not exaggerating, it's awesome. Speaking of that, of course, following that, Totalitarian Terror, which we just played for you, it's just one of those things that, like, very melodic chorus, blistering riff, and I don't know if you can start an album better than these three songs. I mean, seriously, they kick ass one after another. And then you have Gods of Violence, which kind of starts out acoustic with some Middle Eastern vibes, but give it time, you know, because here we go. It's just one of those things, like, this is an album that I suggest you don't drive and listen to Kreator. It's like, don't drink and drive, don't drive and listen to Kreator, especially this album, because you'll be pulled over for speeding, guaranteed. Because you can't help it. Because if you want to drive the pace of the music, you will be going 95. I mean, this is treadmill metal to me. You know, that's, if you want to put it to good use, put on a pair of headphones and run your ass on a treadmill to the tempo of this music, and you'll shed weight instantly. Like, with the exception of maybe like Hail to the Hordes, which is okay. More power metalish to me, which isn't bad, don't get me wrong. To your point, there's not a throwaway track on this album. But when you hear songs like World War Now, Satan is Real, Totalitarian Terror, Gods of Violence, and by the way, Side by Side just kicks you right in the nuts. Like that song.
Well, I want you to go back and listen to Hail the Hordes and imagine Bruce Dickinson singing that song.
Yeah, and it just maybe to me it didn't fit as well with the rest of the album.
That's for sure. It's different. But what I liked about that was it broke up the monotony. Because if there's one thing I've always accused thrash bands of, it's, damn it, break up your pace.
But Fallen Brother does that.
Okay, and
see, to me, Fallen Brother's very different, but I really, really dig it. Whereas
Fallen Brother I like. But I like, give me 3 or 4 changes of pace throughout the album. And I'm fine with that.
Well, speaking of change of pace,
you don't have to be thrash all the time.
No, I agree. I don't agree. I don't disagree with that at all. And speaking of not being thrash all of the time and changing things up, I guess what you would consider a Kreator magnum opus to kind of end the album is Death Becomes My Light, which, again, starts with an acoustic piece with a build up that goes right into a very gallopy, like, Iron Maiden riff. Just an amazingly awesome song to end the album out. You can't end it any better. What did you think of Death Becomes My Light, by the way? We didn't even talk about that. That's an awesome song with a very interesting dark metal. A lot of darkness in this album.
You know what it reminded me of? Hall of Mirrors from Theocracy.
Really?
Yeah, it did. If you listen to the lyrics, and then kind of how it was this, this magnum production at the end of a CD.
You're talking Mirror of Souls, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mirror of Souls.
Yeah, okay. I knew what you meant, but I just wanted to, now as you started talking, I'm like, well,
I think it was Hall of Mirrors that was a track, though, right?
No, it was Mirror of Souls, but I mean, there was a reference to Hall of Mirrors in that song. I know what you're talking
that was the very last track, yeah.
Right.
So it reminded me a lot of that, both in its, not quite its length, obviously, because that was a 20-minute track, but I guess in its production, in its lyrical references, the way it differed itself from the rest of the album, but yet it was a great way. It wasn't power and in your face, or thrashy and in your face, but it fit the album well. It was a good ending to the CD, at least I thought.
Yeah, if you sometimes, and I know friends of mine who will, not necessarily big metal heads, but will put on a metal album when they just feel it fits the moment. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're pissed off, maybe they're working out, maybe, I don't know. But this is that kind of album. Like if you're